How are we doing? Amazing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is not just catching up to technology, it's actually inventing it, inventing the future. Our next conversation is with someone who embodies the spirit of the unstoppable African innovation. He's a Nigerian, British-born inventor, a robotics engineer, and an entrepreneur who literally taught robots how to play. Silas Adekunle is best known for creating the world's first intelligent gaming robot, Mechamon, which caught the world's attention and even landed him an exclusive deal with Apple. Today, he leads Awari, which is building Africa's first multilingual AI assistant, trained in African languages by African talent, and he's also leading Reach Solutions, Reach Industries, where his AI platform, Lumni, is transforming science itself by applying computer vision to accelerate discovery and industry. From Lagos to London to the global stage, Silas's journey proves that African talent is not only part of the story, it is defining the frontier of robotics and artificial intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage an unstoppable African, Mr. Silas Adekunle. And he's even come with a special surprise for us. You're not going to believe what he has. Please take a sit. Thank you so much, Silas. So, you've sat at the crossroads of robotics, gaming, and entertainment. What was the initial spark that led you to merge these worlds?
I think the foundation of everything, in this case, I can say really does go back to Africa. Mm-hmm. I always tell people I had a magical childhood. I grew up, there's creativity, there's movement. All of those things combined with my academic background as well, then gave me a foundation where I saw patterns or opportunities to capture people's imaginations. And that's always been the foundation. How do you explore what's impossible, what's next?
And so what was the journey like, Silas, taking the idea of Mechamon from a wild concept to actually working on a prototype that caught Apple's eye? What was that journey like? It must have been, challenging at times, I imagine.
So going into my robotics education, one of the things I saw was that the platforms that were out there were not enough to capture the attention of young people. And I started a program where after school we were using that to teach kids robotics and using that to teach them to prepare for their education systems. And I saw an opportunity to combine that into a robotics platform. Mm-hmm. And when I show you later, you'll see that it's very, very hard to ignore. It's something that has personality. And that is the foundation.
Can you show us now, actually?
Yes, actually.
Yeah, let's see
get
it.
The robot out.
So what are you unveiling here?
So what you're seeing here is the world's first intelligent gaming robot.
Okay.
You can control it from your phone or your tablet, and you can learn to code with it as well. Okay. So young people everywhere, especially, so this is the robot, it's moving by itself, it's got its own personality. And when I connect to it, as you can see, it's able to move. It can walk around. Hopefully it won't fall.
Isn't that great? Take it.
And this is something that's now in schools in Nigeria. Okay. It's being used by young people to learn how to program.
To learn how to program. Yeah. Amazing. Now, many brilliant investors, Silas. Yes, a round of applause. That really deserves a round of applause. How are you going to scale something like this from Nigeria to beyond, to the African continent and elsewhere? How do you do that?
So the focus here was actually bringing it into Africa.
Okay.
The first company that I started, I live at the intersection of two different worlds, building frontier technologies. Mm-hmm. I'm very conscious of the difference in the environment and how much work we have to do in, some of the global south to actually build infrastructure and capacity. So one of the first things that we did was focus on taking this from initially launched in the UK and then moved to the US. Okay. But it was a focus on making sure that young people in Africa and Nigeria had access to the tools that could prepare them for the future of work as well.
So what advice would you give to young African innovators who want to scale their creations like yours?
I would say I think the lady that came before me said it, we live in a special time. There are these tools that allow you to amplify your work so much. It's a message to them to also build and leverage these tools, but it's also a call out to us as well to make sure that the foundation and the infrastructure is there for other people to build on top of, which is the work that we're doing at Awari.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Awari a little bit more and what you've been doing there. I mean, artificial intelligence is the talk of the town now. Everyone is talking about it. And on the African continent, we're trying to learn how to be creators of artificial intelligence rather than just consumers, right? So tell us about your recent work with Lumi, transforming science in labs and industry, and Awari launching this multilingual AI assistant for Africa with the Nigerian government, I understand. Tell us a bit more about that, and why did you feel it was important to do this?
Let's start with Awari. AI is the transformational technology of this generation. It has so much impact and potential, but only when it's harnessed and when it's used well. I get to play with AI all the time, but being conscious of my background as well, it was very, very obvious that they don't reflect the ways of life that we have.
Sure.
And it's really important that we are part of this building as well. So we started Awari, and the mission was to enable the development and adoption of frontier technology on the African continent. And we're talking a lot about the digital economy today. I think access to digital economy should not come at the expense of the erasure of your culture or your way of life. You should be able to interact naturally.
Don't be shy, you can applaud that. That's
And that was what really, really drove us. And it's not just about building these technologies. They create jobs. They create the infrastructure. 2 days ago, we launched with the Nigerian government Atlas. Atlas stands for, the Atlas part stands for African Tongues and Languages at Scale. And the N stands for Nigeria. This is a bold move that's been led by the Nigerian government, and we're powering it. The goal is that this will be a framework for Africa. We released that model 2 days ago, and young people are building on top of it already. It's open source, anyone can use it. And what that means is we can accelerate this foundation. We put it in place, other people are going to add on top of it, and that is what we need to really transform our ecosystem.
Congratulations. That deserves a round of applause. Well done, Silas. Now, I wanted to ask you, which is more important to ensure that AI benefits African society as a whole? Is it regulation and policy? Is it education and training? Is it ethical development or greater digital access and inclusion? What is the fundamental shift that needs to happen to ensure that AI benefits us all and not just the privileged few?
I'm just going to flip your question around because I feel like it set me up. It's really about the environment.
Right.
If you want to set up a successful, flourishing environment, it's multiple factors. These are pillars that make AI equitable, that distributes the value of it across society. So we need all of those things. The practical steps to get in there are making sure that A, we are building in our countries, in our societies, these foundational technologies that other people can leverage and sit on top of. B is I would love to call out to the private sector. I think what we've shown is an example of amazing private-public partnership. The whole process created about 4,000 jobs, all of them young people, about early 20s, working on something that created a historical moment right in Nigeria. We wanted to prove that it was possible there. Now we've done that, invested and laid this foundation. It's important that the corporations, the bigger companies, just dedicate 10% of your innovation budget. 90% of it already goes to the big consultants firms. Dedicate 10% of that budget to local startups and allow them to flourish as well. That's how you build a thriving ecosystem.
Right, and because we got to make sure that AI doesn't further marginalize those already excluded from the digital economy as we're seeing today, especially women and youth, the informal entrepreneurs, people in rural areas, right? Yeah. How do we ensure that that doesn't happen with artificial intelligence?
So I think how we ensure that doesn't happen with artificial intelligence is that we should be very, very conscious of not just existing at the bottom of the value chain. I think we've got the numbers, we can exist across the whole stack. So we're not just building data labeling, we're developing models as well. We're also building tools, which takes me on to the other company. The company is Reach Industries. It's built Lumi, which is a visual AI system that automates data capture in the life sciences in complex manufacturing environments. So we've built these models at Reach Industries to solve some of these hard problems. However, we worked alongside that process as well in the model development, the support. And I think it's those dual purposes where you're both addressing societal challenges and also creating value across the value chain that creates the balance.
Looking at the strategy across the continent, there are those who say Africa needs an AI strategy. Others say we should fix the basics first, internet, digital literacy, infrastructure. Where do you stand on that? From your perspective, what is non-negotiable in Africa's AI strategy over the next decade?
It's non-negotiable that we have to build. The GAP does not care if you have a policy or not, if you have a strategy or not. The gap widens. And as the gap widens, it's going to exacerbate the problems and challenges that we have. By just making sure that we invest in research and development, yes, there are foundational problems to solve. We have to do that. But I also want to remind us as well, we know what came out of Africa, the seat of civilization, the cradle of civilization. Afrobeats. That's just a little of digitizing the African way of life. There is more where that came from, biodiversity, the genetic diversity. So we can work on so much more. It's important that we build the foundations for technology at the same time.
We build the foundations, and also we ensure that the ethical frameworks are not copied from the global north, right? And rooted in African values, in African culture. How do we go about doing that?
This is the most important thing to actually capture. Essentially, when we take on these projects, we are digitizing our native intelligence. We are making sure that as more people spend time in the digital ecosystem, we lay this foundation. So it's important for us to have these ethical frameworks in place. As you deploy AI systems, as you collect data, the people that you're doing it with, because Africa historically has always been about society, it's always been about community. Education needs to happen at those fundamental levels as well, so everyone understands, but can also know that AI is for them in terms of the impact it will have on their way of life.
Right. You showed us a little bit of what you're doing there with Awari. Tell us a little bit more, because you're not just creating the technology, you're investing in young people, in researchers, and startups. What do you think is the single most critical ingredient to produce this next wave of African inventors and innovators?
The foundation is the environment they're in. I think the leaders...
Access to capital, mentorship?
Exactly. Access to capital. Leaders of the countries need to make sure that there is room for innovation. Mentorship as well is really, really important. So entrepreneurs that have been on that journey should look back inwards and make sure we put supporting ecosystems in place for these younger companies as well.
Access to capital, that's very difficult, especially for young entrepreneurs. You managed to do it. How, and what advice would you give to other young African innovators, innovators who are looking to build that capital?
Managed to do it with great difficulty, but managed to get there over time. And I think I owe it to many of the people that have come before, the shoulders that we ride upon. So that ecosystem, going back to what you said, is really, really important. We cannot have that ecosystem, though, without capital. It's really important to invest this money, and it is an investment, because what it takes to create these new technologies, yes, it's risky, but you need to experiment. The potential that comes out of it are what we've seen in other countries. DeepSeek. Now we're building Awari, we're building Reach Industries. There are many other companies in Africa as well, but they need that room to be able to experiment. And that would be my call out to everyone here today that has the ability to influence, from policy to ecosystem design to investment as well. This is the time to invest in Africa.
Now, there's also the question of skills. I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here with all these questions, because there's a lot of talk about AI right now, but also a lot of questions that need to be answered, especially when it comes to things like skills, right? So how do you see your role of private sector-led initiatives building the skills pipeline that Africa needs right now how do we enhance the skills when it comes to artificial intelligence?
The reality is the difference between my education, the education I experienced, across the different parts of the world was just more theoretical than practical. I think we need to move beyond that. The best minds want to work on the biggest challenges. And when they work on these big challenges, they create value. It's just simple, socioeconomics. And so when we set out to prove that this could be built in Nigeria, that these technologies that we've built, there was a talent gap. We had to invest in closing that gap. But it was doable. There is a foundation that's been laid already. There's been lots of education. We now need to actually put it into practice, building products and actually solving problems.
All right. Silas, if you had to leave the room here and finish with one sentence for the world and the audience here at Unstoppable Africa to remember, Africa will lead in AI because?
Of its young people. Invest in them. Yeah.
Amazing. A round of applause, please, for Mr. Silas Adekunle.
Thank you.
Great. Are you going to take that back, or are you leaving it here as a gift for us? Thank you so much. A round of applause, please, for Silas Adekunle. He deserves it. The Unstoppable Africans shaping the future of the continent. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a short break, coffee break, because we're getting the stage ready for an exceptional performance in about an hour or so. You do not want to miss it, but you do want to go and get yourself, refueled, energized, and be ready for it. Come back in 15 minutes. We've got lots more coming up. Creatives. We've got Mr. Strive Masiyiwa, who's coming back on stage to make an announcement. Great things coming on the way out at Unstoppable Africa stage. Join us again in 15 minutes.